Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive into the world of local AI. And this week on our LocalLLaMA, things are heating up, literally.
Hey, our local Emma. Are you ready for another deep dive? Let's see what's been happening in our little corner of the internet.
Yeah, keeping up with this subreddit is a full-time job these days. Every time I refresh, there are like 50 new posts about some crazy new model or someone's insane home lab setup. It's wild.
That's why we're here, right? To sift through the chaos and find those golden nuggets of LLM goodness.
Exactly. And this week, those nuggets are extra shiny, let me tell you.
Okay, so let's jump right in, shall we? Picture this.
Yeah.
A computer with 7 GPUs all crammed onto one motherboard.
Oh yeah, that post. It was like the ultimate bat signal for hardware geeks. I think half the comments were just strings of drooling emojis.
I'm surprised it wasn't more, honestly. It was a thing of beauty. The user said they had to stop at 7 because of a motherboard limitation. Can you believe that?
Some serious hardware envy going on there, let me tell you. And the best part is, this person actually shared their setup in detail. They broke down how they manage it all with Llama, SRAB, L-Proxy, and Fragment Frog.
Like a master class in multi-GPU management, all thanks to one glorious Reddit post.
It's what I love about this community. People aren't just showing off their toys, they're actually helping each other push the boundaries of what's possible.
Totally. Speaking of pushing boundaries, let's talk about Mistral. They released this new 3B model that looks perfect for edge devices.
Sounds great, right? But there's a catch, of course.
Oh, there's always a catch. What is it this time?
You can only use the model through their API. Not very local friendly, is it?
Oof, that's going to ruffle some feathers.
You think? The comment section was brutal. One of the top comments was like, they trained a tiny 3B model that's ideal for edge devices, so naturally you can only use it over the API because logic.
The sarcasm is strong with this one. I can practically hear the air quotes around the word logic.
It's a shame because the model itself sounds really promising, but that licensing decision, it's definitely sparked a debate.
It feels like the same old story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Open source versus commercial AI, around 50,000.
Exactly. Mistral did make their 8B model available under a research license, though, which is interesting. They didn't do that with their 7B model, so maybe they are listening, or maybe they're just trying to find a balance that works for them.
It's a tough line to walk.
Yeah.
Especially with strong open source alternatives like Llama 3.2 3B and Quinn 2.5 3B already making waves. I'm really curious to see how this plays out.
Me too. This whole open versus closed thing is something we'll definitely be keeping an eye on.
Absolutely. And speaking of keeping an eye on things, did you see the explosion of excitement around the OpenAI Whisper Turbo release?
Oh yeah, that was huge. Everyone was talking about integrating it into OpenWeb UI. Someone even said they were throwing the Llama registry in the garbage because of it.
Dramatic much. I love it. The whole thread was like watching a live science experiment. People were sharing discoveries in real time, figuring out how to pull the model directly from Hugging Face.
Yeah, the energy was infectious. It really shows how quickly this community can move when something new and exciting comes along.
True, but not everyone was immediately on board the Whisper Turbo hype train, were they?
Nope. I think one comment summed up the counterargument pretty well. They said something like, if I'm running locally, I have better options, and if I'm building a product, I can't even use it.
So which is it? Is it a performance issue? A licensing issue? Or something else altogether?
Honestly, I think it's a little bit of everything. If you're all about local use, there are already powerful and flexible models out there, often with much more permissive licenses.
Right. And when it comes to building products, those licensing restrictions are a real deal breaker.
Yep, we're back to that open source versus commercial dilemma again.
It's the circle of AI life.
It really does feel like a constant tug of war sometimes, doesn't it?
It does. But hey, little tension keeps things interesting, right?
That's one way to look at it. And speaking of interesting, did you catch that thread about the new Supernova Medius model?
Oh yeah, the one that's supposed to be even better than Mistral Small.
That's the one. Apparently, it's giving Quinn Instruct a run for its money in practical tests, too.
Wow, that's impressive. But you know what they say, if it sounds too good to be true.
Right. Let's just say there have been a few creative workarounds when it comes to the model's content restrictions.
So that's what those other threads were about.
Yeah.
I saw some back and forth about bypassing censorship and whether the model was appropriate for professional use.
It seems like even with all the progress we've made in AI, some things never change.
Yeah, the ethical dilemmas are always lurking around the corner, aren't they?
They are. But you know what else is always lurking? Benchmark drama. Did you see that discussion about MMLU scores?
MMLU, hold on. I need a quick refresher on that one. What is MMLU again?
Right, good point. MMLU stands for Massive Multitask Language Understanding, which basically means it's a benchmark that tests how well a model can handle a ton of different language-based tasks.
Okay, so we're talking about stuff like question answering, summarization, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Even basic math is in there. Anyway, the discussion was about how some models are optimized for specific benchmarks, so the scores don't always reflect real-world performance.
So it's like that old saying, there are lies, damned lies, and then there are statistics.
Exactly. And in this case, the statistics might be telling us more about the benchmark than the model itself. One comment even called out a model called ARCS as a total scam because it was apparently trained to game certain benchmarks.
Yikes. Talk about a PR nightmare.
Right. It just goes to show you can't always trust what you see on paper.
Or on the benchmark leaderboard, for that matter. Real-world performance is what matters. Speaking of which, there was a lot of buzz about that new text-to-speech model, F5 TTS.
Oh yeah, the one that people are calling the current champion for local TTS.
That's the one. I saw someone mention they had some trouble getting it running on Windows 10, though.
Yeah, but they also shared a link to their GitHub repository with a fix, which is just so awesome.
That's the open source community for you. Always willing to lend a helping hand. Or, in this case, a helpful line of code.
And it gets even better. The same person ended up making some serious improvements to the model, like adding chunking to handle longer text inputs and reducing VRAM usage. It's incredible to see how these individual contributions can really push things forward.
It's amazing. And it reminds me of that post about Nemetron 3.8b.
The little engine that could? Yeah, that was a good one.
I love how someone wrote it off as another boring NVIDIA model, but then they actually tried it and were completely blown away. They said it was acing tests that only Sonnet or GPT-4 could handle before.
It's a good lesson in not judging a book by its cover, or in this case, a model by its developer.
Right. But benchmarks aside, how did it actually perform in the wild? Did it live up to the hype?
Well, not everyone was over the moon. Someone else commented that while the Q8 version was great for short contexts, it struggled beyond 4K. They ended up switching back to Mistral Large Q4.
That's a good reminder that even with these powerful models, there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
So true. We need to choose the right tool for the right job, just like with any other technology.
Speaking of the right tool for the job, remember that hilarious thread about someone using AI to analyze their home network logs?
Oh, you mean the one with the sassy email alerts? That was pure gold.
Right. They had one about a missing favicon.ic file. I need that level of snark in my life. Please tell me they open sourced their setup.
They're thinking about it. They did share some details, though. A llama with Llama 3.7b and a bit of Python scripting magic.
Love it. It's a reminder that AI doesn't always have to be serious business. Sometimes it's about having a little fun and automating those everyday annoyances.
Absolutely.
Let's dive into some more practical stuff, shall we? Like that whole world of decentralized AI training that's been blowing up lately.
Oh, yeah. Buckle up, folks, because things are about to get seriously meta.
Okay, so decentralized AI training. It's the dream, right? Harnessing the power of the people to train massive models, stick it to big tech, all that good stuff.
Yeah, it sounds amazing in theory, but in practice, well, it can get a little messy.
That's putting it mildly. Remember that Intellect-T1 project we were talking about earlier? The one that wanted to train a massive model using a distributed network of volunteers?
Oh, yeah, with the H100 SXM5 GPUs. That's a lot of hardware.
Talk about a barrier to entry. Did they actually manage to get it off the ground?
They did, but it didn't exactly go as planned.
What happened?
Well, the training run basically hit capacity immediately, leaving a ton of people out in the cold.
So much for decentralized and accessible.
Tell me about it. The comments section was not happy. A lot of people felt like the project wasn't as open or community-driven as it claimed to be.
It's a good reminder that decentralization is about more than just the technology. It's about governance, accessibility, making sure everyone has a fair shot.
Absolutely. But, the whole Intellect-T1 thing did spark a fascinating side conversation.
Ooh, do tell.
What if, and hear me out on this, we could create a Bitcoin replacement where all that mining power went towards training a giant distributed open LLM?
Now that's an interesting thought. Mining LLMs instead of crypto?
Mm-hmm.
What were people saying about it?
Well, there were a lot of opinions, as you can imagine. Some people thought it was a brilliant idea, a way to democratize AI development. Others were a little more skeptical, mainly because of the technical challenges involved.
Yeah, like how do you prevent cheating? in a system like that. And what about network latency? It would be a logistical nightmare.
Right, but it's still fun to think about, and who knows, maybe someday it'll be more than just a thought experiment.
I love that kind of optimism. It's what makes this community so great.
I agree, it's all about pushing the boundaries and seeing what's possible.
Speaking of pushing boundaries, we have to talk about the user who's basically living the LocalLLaMA day dream.
You mean the one running a 70B parameter model offline?
The one and only. 3090s, 120 gigabytes of VRAM. I'm getting hardware envy just thinking about it.
Right, they're doing some pretty incredible stuff with it too. Software development, reverse engineering, the whole shebang.
It's amazing to see what people are doing with these powerful models. But not everyone has the budget or the square footage to build the supercomputer in their basement.
That's true, but you don't necessarily need a supercomputer to get started with local LLMs. Did you see that thread about budget-friendly home lab servers?
Oh yeah, the $350 precision workstation.
Yeah.
Proof that you don't need to break the bank to experience the power of local AI.
Exactly. With a little creativity and some elbow grease, even an older workstation can be a perfectly capable LLM machine.
It's amazing to see people sharing those kinds of tips and tricks.
Yeah.
It makes AI so much more accessible.
It's what this community is all about, right? Knowledge sharing, pushing boundaries, and a whole lot of DIY spirit.
Absolutely. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this week's deep dive into the world of our LocalLLaMA.
It's been another wild ride.
It has. From hardware hacks to philosophical debates about numbers, we've covered it all. If you've enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to check out the show notes for links to all the posts we discussed. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes. Until next time, keep experimenting, keep learning, and keep those local LLMs humming.